So welcome. This is a DaVinci Resolve webinar offered by Future Media Concepts. The first step, obviously, is start DaVinci Resolve. You open up the application. The application identifies itself. It identifies itself as a studio version. And when it comes up, it opens up a window that, by definition, gives you a whole bunch of things that you either worked in the past or starts with a new untitled project. If you right-click on the untitled project, there is a project settings option where you can define from the get-go what is going to be the timeline resolution, which is generally defined either a 720p, 1920, 1080p, and all the way up to 81 or 4000 full aperture. So these are all the aspect ratios and the pixels cross and down that will tell you what are the projects. So if you know that you're going to sell it to a television station and they say, well, according to our policy, we are expecting or taking 1920, 1080. So you defined that the timeline is going to be 1920, 1080. That is the 16:9 aspect ratio. And the pixel, we call it the raster size. Now, if you're working in a 2997, which is what in these United States is the frame rate, you set it up as 2997. Why? Because at the beginning, you have to set it up in DaVinci, like in Avid. In Premiere, you can mix and match anything you want. Here, at the beginning, the project frame rate should be set. So if you set it up and now you're ready to move on, the next step is obviously going to be the big thing because DaVinci started out as a color environment. Therefore, in the color management, you need to define how the color is going to be managed. Now, when you set up something, the cool thing is that in the upper right-hand corner, there is an option to save that preset. And you notice that I have already a couple of presets, the 29 DaVinci Color Manage, and I have a setting 2. Load that preset, watch what happens. In that scenario, I don't have the DaVinci managing it, but I will have the timeline color space addressed too. So this is where your different cameras come in, so you can bring in the camera lookup table. This is not complicated. It's just a detail that at this stage on this webinar, it might be too much for me to throw at you. Anyways, bottom line is that you have to set up at the beginning how the project's going to be. So let's say that I am not happy with that. I'm going to go back to the default because in these United States, we do everything 2997. So when that is done, I OK it. And when I'm done with that, it is telling me, OK, this project is set up. And if I double click on it, it opens up the basic window. There are, in this version, 7 different looks, 7 different workspaces. The media workspace, the cut on the bottom, I'm clicking on these. And you can use keyboard shortcuts, Mac or Windows, and they would be Shift 2, Shift 3, Shift 4, Shift 5, Shift 6, Shift 7, and Shift 8. So each of these workspaces are helping you work in a different environment. Generally, people use the media to bring in material, or use the edit. Or you can use the cut, which is a kind of a very short, different visual thing. This is not the class on that. This is just to get you back into how the media comes in the easiest and fastest. Media is your camera original, your iPhone, your iPad, your GoPro, your DSLR, whatever you have. So in this case, if I click on the edit, I have an option in the bin, upper left-hand corner, to right-click and import either a bin or media. I'm just going to go and quickly show you how that works. And now you know where your camera originals are. Let's you and I agree that I have some camera original, someplace that I put it on. And if I have it, for example, I have these shots, QuickTime movies. I highlight all of them. I click on the open down, change project frame rate. That's the question that usually comes in if your footage is different frame rate than the project. So it comes in, there we go. You have all the footage and you have different views of it. I can look at them in pictures. I can obviously make them bigger. You know, I can actually scroll over them. I don't even have to put them in the source monitor. So these are all the clips that I have available to work with. Well, if I select all clips and I right-click drop down, I create a new timeline using the selected clips. It will ask me how to call it. I will call it for webinar FMC. Comes in, puts it together. Shift Z shows me the entire environment. And now I have material to work with. When I switch over to color, here is how simple the color management can be. So if I open it up and I say, hey, I'm going to make this particular shot a little bit brighter, Resolve automatic balance, that's it. I have it done. Well, I don't trust it because remember, your eyes and my eyes are different. Your computer and my monitor may be different. So that's why we right-click, and show scope. So the scopes define what is the brightness, darkness. So the original looks like this. You see how I don't have any brights. And if I activate that color grading, it pushes it up. I will talk about this when we get into the real thing. But point is that it's very simple. Bring it in, throw it in the timeline, and decide how to go about the color grading, because that's the basic presentation that I'm going to be working on. To make it easier, I have something that I pre-cut for you. So this is what I have pre-cut for you. I'm opening it up. Do I want to save the project that I just opened up untitled? No. I'm moving along. It's opening up a new one. And this is all presets. So this is what we had. This is what Shift F introduces myself. And then because I have additional titles, Command plus, zoom in a little bit. These are the topics that I will cover today. So let me go through them. As I showed you, I did the Resolve opening, so started the Resolve project. I also showed you the connection. Now, quick assemble a story is obviously what I just did, packed it up, got the whole thing together and threw it in timeline. Now, let's go into the next one, perform basic color grading. This scenario that I have set up is a webinar is going to do basic. We're going to do the auto subtitles, which is a cool thing in version 18. Adjust separate color frequencies, so we're going to work with different colors. Separate and color just objects on a clip, so we can actually select just an object and deliver and save your story. So that is what my intent is. With that, go back again, and let's show what I have put together. Here's my first timeline. My first timeline, according to this breakdown, is, let's find out, webinar basic timeline. So that's basically me going through a food court, put together the shots, and all the shots are here, whole bunch of fruits and vegetables, which are very, very conducive to color grading. This is a perfect example. So my question is, how does the color grading work in DaVinci? Here's the quick one. If you have the timeline active, change to the color. In the color, the node principle is the guiding principle in DaVinci Resolve. So I will say, hey, I'm going to find where the red colors are. Red, there we go. There's some cake. I want to make sure that in that section, the red color comes up. So I can separate the clip, or I can just say, I don't care if there's other reds in the image somewhere. Maybe the background, you see there's some red in there. It will all be either oversaturated, undersaturated, or change of color. So let me show you the basic principle. So if I want to have the cake color change from red to pick a color, generally one node is not the one way to go. I usually adjust the second node. So in that second node, I say, hey, pick the red. There are multiple ways of doing it. One of them obviously is a color picker. I'm going to pick the color, so it picks the red. If I want to see what I picked, I activate my friend and shows me that, I didn't pick enough red. Oh, it picked other reds. There we go. So if I want to have more of them, obviously I widen the area of the reds, and I can actually show you that those reds are selected. And the question is, what do you do with that? Because that's the second node which selected the red. Go back into the brightness amount, and I'm going to have all those reds brightened up or darkened down. And you see other reds also respond. This was one way of picking something. Now, the other way to do that would be not set up a pixel, but set up a range. And that range is not set up, as I said, with the slider, but it is set up with this scenario, set up with a picker, that the picker is going to say, I'm going to pick a range of red. Now, you notice that there is a starting point, ending point. So these are all the reds that have selected. So I can actually specify which portion of the red. I can add additional nodes to it. And I can say, hey, that red is going to be desaturated or oversaturated. If it's desaturated on the big screen, it looks like this. Oversaturated looks like that. So with that, let me show you a story that I put together for you based on the requirements of this webinar. So in this one, it says O2. So the O2 is actually the good one to work with. In this scenario, I am working with a section where, let's say, the oranges are the ones that I need to pay attention to. This is a food court, and you can see how fast the camera moves. Still, the concept of selecting the orange is simple. Step 1, find the clip. Step 2, go into color. Step 3, add a node. And the node in this case is not going to adjust the global, it's just going to only adjust the orange. How do you select the orange? As I had shown you in the curves, there is a setup where you increase brightness, obviously. There is a section where you increase just the red amount, all that stuff. But if you want to just select the orange color, using the color not based on shape, but based on the entire content, here are the choices. Hue versus hue. So if I pick the orange, I can change that orange to, and any orange that is on that footprint is going to change. And that is not a bad thing. Well, clearly, if there are other orange images, they will also respond. You see that that also responded, meaning that was it. So you need to be careful. For that reason, we also have a tool that specifies the region that you want to adjust. And that's where this next exercise comes in. With that, let's go back to edit. And let's talk about this thing that I kind of want to show you, where a artificial intelligence product was introduced way back, and that artificial intelligence is able to give me or give you either adjustment separating the sound from the noise, or even give you a closed caption. So let's listen and hear what is going on. I need to make sure that you can hear the sound on the Zoom, and I'm going to mute the first track and look at the second track. Here's the space bar. Right, as well. Nice. Thank you. You're welcome. Good deal. So somebody's packing food, and let's say we have noise in that environment, and that noise could be in Fairlight, which is the audio component of it, turned off or on. So for example, voice isolation. So if I have the voice isolation, it seems to be turned on. If I turn it off, listen to how the sound comes in, all the restaurant and all the food court noise. Listen to it. Right, as well. Nice. Thank you. You're welcome. I'm hoping that it comes through as a lot of noise. Listen to it one more time. Right, as well. Nice. Thank you. You're welcome. Now, in the Fairlight, which is the audio component of the DaVinci Resolve, when you switch over on the track, in this case, it's going to be track 2 because I'm soloing track 2 or muting track 1. So it doesn't affect that. It's a track effect. It's not the clip effect. It's the whole entire track. I go into the track, in this case it is 2, and I activate my friend called voice isolation. And I turn on the voice isolation, and I define that the voice is going to be like really, really isolated. Let's see how it works. It is real-time effect. Right, as well. Nice. Thank you. You're welcome. Good deal. Let's listen to it without. Again. Right, as well. Nice. Thank you. You're welcome. Good deal. That's one thing. So that's a artificial intelligence where the system kind of analyzes voice and says, hey, the guy's talking, so let's equalize out better. And the human voice is a specific frequency range. So unless I'm talking very deep or unless I'm talking very high, that's going to be pretty much pointing and pinpointing a specific frequency. So that's a cool one. So that's out of the way. Now, what about the closed caption? What I can actually have the computer tell me what I said? Well, let's find out. Same scenario. Park on it, park on the clip. And in this case, I need to add another track that is a specific subtitle track. It's not a video track. It's not an audio track. It's a subtitle track. So the subtitle track shows up if my track arrangement is very kind of, there we go. So there's a subtitle track, shrink it down. And if I tell the computer, please select the section, which is X. Please select the environment. It is in the timeline drop down, and it says create subtitles from audio. It is asking what language. Generally, you have in this version a whole bunch of them. The English is my default, or automatically, which is actually not bad. I'm going to pick the English. It doesn't differentiate, as far as I know, from the British, Australian, Canadian, or American English, but it is recognizing it. Let's see if it does. I'm going to use 42 characters per line and see how it works. It initializes the software. Again, I am doing it live right now. I don't have any additional tricks here. So if I now play it, Watch what happens. I don't see the track because I turned it off. There we go. Nice, thank you. I don't know if you see it on a big screen.
As well. Nice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good deal.
Let's try it one more time. So what I did was tell the computer, please recognize the interaction.
Nice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good deal.
I don't know how else to say it. This is cool. Let's go next one. Next sequence, I have a sequence that is put together here. Now, there is a lot of information here, so this is a little bit more complicated. So I'm at a trade show where the guy is telling me things. Let me turn off. So the guy is talking to me, and he's telling me something about the product.
What am I looking at here? What is this device?
This is a timecode box, the TC1.
First of all, I needed to get out of the noise. Remember, I just did that a couple of minutes ago. So this is what the noise sounds like when I am at a trade show.
What am I looking at here? What is this device?
This is a timecode box, the
Oh,
TC1.
this is the adjusted one. This is not adjusted one. Listen to how much noise is in the background.
What am I looking at here? What is this device?
This is a timecode box, the TC1 timecode generator box. It will...
So if I want to have a subtitle on it, clearly I would have to generate it. So what I'm going to do is move this section separately, someplace else out of the environment, pick it up, this whole area, hello, hold down, and duplicate it holding down Option Alt. So now this whole section is going to be duplicated later in the story. So in this scenario, if you're looking at it at the later, you see it.
What am I looking at here? What is this
You hear the
device?
noise,
This
right?
is a timecode box, the TC1 time...
So what I did was I compressed, so I separated the sound on that audio track so it's cleaner.
What am I looking at here? What is this device?
This is a timecode box, the TC1...
So far you're able to follow. There we go. The voice isolation is turned on. So for that reason, I am now able to get the subtitle track. Let's find out if the computer can recognize it. I'm going to select only the section that I'm working with. I don't want to have the entire story. Entire story will be like taking too much time. It is requiring that I go in the timeline, and in the timeline, I tell create subtitle from audio. Okay, English. Let's see how fast this one takes. It's a longer interaction. And you will check what he says. Is it accurate? You see how it is done? Please, I'm going to Command S, which saves everything. I'm going to do Command F, make it full screen, and you test and see if the analyzer picked the right words, picked the right terminology.
What am I looking at here? What is this device?
This is a timecode box, the TC1 timecode generator box. It will generate timecode, wirelessly send it out to other timecode boxes or our wireless timecode slate, TCS only.
What can it generate it to in terms of audio recording and in terms of video recording? I see there's an output here. There's an input or output here on the left side.
It is both. If you need to jam it from another device, it becomes an input. If you need to send the timecode outward, it is an output. It does not wirelessly record audio. On top here, you can see the scratch microphone.
Okay.
So if you use it with a DSLR or a mirrorless handheld camera, it will send the timecode on the left and the scratch audio on the right. So that way you can use our timecode, but still get scratch on your camera.
What's your price point on this MSRP?
$199.
That's a good choice.
Moving along. So here's what I did. I put together some color stuff. And remember, I talked about earlier where I have separation of color frequencies and separation of shape. I had made adjustments on the first clip, and I noticed that there are some nodes. The nodes were able to separate without the color adjustment. What's the difference? Original. I made the color adjustment, basically put it in a range. And remember, I told you about the scopes. Point is that I made the adjustment, and I defined that I'm going to have a section look like I have a light coming through the window. Artificial. I'm changing the reality. So that light coming through the window is, because I'm stationary pretty much, there's not much movement, is okay. The question is going to obviously when I start moving. So in scenarios where you have a lockdown shot, adjustment is very, very easy in terms of a section, even though it's a physical separation, but it is using a artificial light added to the environment. If I want to have everything else darkened, the opposite, look at it. So I inverted the light, and then the opposite is now made darker. If I want to have the opposite black and white, which is silly, I could go on the opposite. This is the original. That's the original. This is the opposite. And I inverted it by right-clicking and adding an outside node, which is actually the opposite. So in that scenario, if I want to make the opposite black and white, bottom left-hand corner where all the color tools are, and bring the saturation down. And here is how it looks now. So with that, let's find out something that is going to be really the most important in most television shows. So if you want to have somebody's face changed, you notice that I'm turning on and off a node to show you what the original looks like. This tool that I'm introducing to you is going to be really fun. If you right-click on the clip that you're adjusting, drop down, you add a new version, which is actually almost like a second effect. Well, you can only run one at a time unless you combine them. I'm going to create a new version. I'm going to call it version 2. Now in the version 2, watch me, I'm going to delete the node. I'm starting from scratch. And if I want to compare two of them at the same time, well, I have a couple of choices. One choice, obviously, is go back to the original version. Right-click load. Version 1, there we go. So it still brings me back what I did. This tool is very unique because it doesn't show up on the edit window. It doesn't show that you have an effect on it, on the clip. Keep that in mind. So with that, the color comes up. Let's go back again to the version 2, which is empty. And let me show you and introduce you to your new friend that is going to be, one is Magic Mask, the other one is Face Refinement. So step 1, you need to decide what is going to be the brightness contrast environment. Right-click on it, show the scopes, and I'm going to pick only one scope. My scenario is going to be making sure that I have the setup where it is the waveform, and the brightness and darkness is going to be defined by using the waveform as an analyzer. So if I want to increase the brightness, add a node. The second node is going to be my brightness. Pick the curves. You're familiar with curves. If you're not, welcome to the club. You're going to learn the curves. Most efficient, most practical, most instantaneous. Bring up the brightness level. There we go. And maybe you heard about the term S-curve. It gives you contrast. So now you have something to work with. Because it's video, I generally like to show it how it looks without. Washed out, and with Command-D puts it back on. So now we have something to work with. So the second step is going to be separating the face. Now, if somebody wants to have the face increase brightness and all this stuff, softening up and a whole bunch of stuff, there are multiple ways of doing that. The easiest way and the fastest way is to have it soften. This is known as the magazine look. Well, you can also come up with your own, but magazine look to me means that I'm going to have the mid-tone detail soften up. It's almost like autofocus. Without, with, oh, I got the wrinkles out. It's still there. Right? Everything is working. Perfect. So with that, now comes the big one. Again, we are talking about the face refinement. Face refinement means that I'm not going to use the softening of the entire thing. I'm just going to have the face done. If I need space, I need to make sure that my nodes are kind of a little bit smaller so I can fit another node. Option S, Alt S, adds another node. And in the upper right-hand corner, there's a whole bunch of effects, FX. The one that I was just mentioning a minute ago is face refinement. So I type in face refinement. Here's how the face refinement works. Watch it. You add it onto that node. If you work with it, and if you have the studio version, this is included. So here's how the face refinement works. Presumption is that your eyes, nose, and everything is looking into camera. You don't have not much movement, but you are looking into the camera and the computer. As I said minutes ago, people want to look good on television. This now will be analyzing it. And watch what happens. It adds a wireframe. Look at how fast it goes. Boom. So it actually identified the eyes, nose, everything else. So what do I want to do with that? Well, I can actually have the contrast on for the face only. So it identified the face. I can also have the mid-tone, make it warm it up a bit. Darken it up, just the face, nobody else. Don't trust me, look at the full screen. Without, Command-D, without, with. And without, come on now, play it. And without, that's it. So the point is that this is a very cool tool. I can also have the cheekbones. What? the cheekbones. Okay, eye, forehead, brush. Ah, blush. Blush it. Maybe make it to blush it. Looks like she's blushing. She got kind of sunburned. A little bit or at all. Ah, but the face was recognized. Now, this face refinement is specifically to the face. Now, here's another one. And I'm going to, again, use my tool that I just introduced minutes ago, which was the version. So I'm going to do the local version. I'm going to create local version. I'm going to call it Magic Mask. Here's how it works. If I define that I want to have the lady's hair change to different color, instead of picking a color, which is what generally you would do, picking a color and change it and separate the color and make sure that only that, is picked. It's too complicated. It's not too complicated, but it takes a lot of time to zoom into the specific frequency. So for that reason, I am not using it. Watch what I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do is, as I said, make an adjustment. Oh, wait a minute. I just did earlier the adjustment with the curves. Isn't there a faster one? Yeah, automatic. Automatic is really cool because it makes sure that everything is bright to the maximum and dark to the minimum. That's fine. If you don't like it, you can still make an adjustment and, get the colors kind of organized with the brightness, darkness. So now you're kind of close to broadcast. Anyways, so here is the ending punch for the webinar, guys. Say hello to your new tool. We call it Magic Mask. This is how Magic Mask works. First of all, in the center where the curves is, you activate the Magic Mask. The Magic Mask need to be told, are they working on a person or they were on an object? So if I'm not using an object, which is actually a piece of furniture or a building or anything else, but if I'm working on a person, on the person, I can define what is that I am going to be mask. Drop down, I'm going to work on the hair. So now the question comes, how do I select the hair? Do I need to kind of, rotoscoping it and dot it? No. With the plus picker, let's see if I can make it. I say, hey, pick the hair. You see, I'm drawing a shape around the hair, and I'm not defining exactly. So the computer separates the hair. Whoa, isn't that cool? Well, if I don't know what I selected, I generally like to turn on the red. The red actually is not making it red. It says that's what I selected. So with this, I'm going to track it and make sure that that is traced. So when she moves, the hair is being analyzed. This is a little bit slower because, as I said, this is real time. It doesn't need to be rendered. Well, it's actually rendering it now if you want to think about the concept of real time. If you have done this, you know it's cool. If you haven't, welcome to the club. So now I know that I selected the hair. I'm going to deselect it, and I would like to have the hair brighter, yellower, browner, purpler. Now, here's the trick. Notice that there is shades of the brown and the blonde and all that stuff. So it is not one color. So I'm not changing one color. I'm adjusting, and because the mask is so smart, it actually will follow the grading, the shading. So here is how I'm going to make her hair more, I don't know, yellowish. Yellowish would be probably I grab and make sure that the gain, which is the bright element, is going to be all yellowish. That's obviously overdoing it, or I make the purple hair or something. But you notice that the shading is there. Make it more brownish. Okay, that's kind of silly. But notice what the result is. So if I did my job right, and I play it full screen, it's almost believable that it is now yellowish. It doesn't spill over to the face, doesn't spill over to the sweater, the top, the lips, nothing. It is even the hair, the soft hair is kind of analyzed. It's really cool. And this is, again, with the studio version, Magic Mask. The coolest thing since sliced bread in my eye, in my mind. Number one. According to my scenario, if I go back into Shift 4, which is the edit window of the last one, here is the element Command plus. This is moving, this is stationary. So obviously I would be able to do the tracking, and the tracking works very well with the mask. But here's the thing with the shape. So now I'll go into the orange. I'm going to change the oranges to a different color. As I did earlier, Shift 6 or color gets into the color. And because I already made the adjustment, as I have done before, instead of deleting the nodes, I will say I will have a different version of it, local version, and create another version. I will call it version 2, webinar group, whatever the brightness is, I don't care. Add 2 nodes, option S1, 2. The first node is going to be the brightness, darkness. How do I define it? Let me show you a third way of defining the brightness, darkness. Instead of picking it automatically, instead of using the curves to brighten it and darken it, okay, reset that too. I'm going to use a crosshair where I'll tell you that the darkest is going to be the dark element, and the brightest with the crosshair is going to be, let's say, this bright element. So I'm using those tools telling you what the boundaries of the brightness are. If I need to have more, clearly I can define that I'm going to brighten up the mid-range a bit, or brighten up the colors on the mid-range, which is also cool. So there's a multiple ways of doing it. My point is that I need to separate the oranges. And lucky for me, it is a lockdown shot. Ah, cool. So instead of using a color, because remember, there's other colors. There's a color of the pants, color oranges on that. So I'm going to have it separated by shape. You're with me with that concept. So the shape adjustment obviously requires that I go into something called power window. In the power window, the first shape I'm going to pick is the circular shape, and I'm going to make sure that there's no softness on it, and I'm going to put it onto one of the oranges. Which one? I'll pick the big orange first. I will go at a speed that is not going to give you the perfect result, but I just need to explain to you that this is based on shape selection. So if I select the first one, clearly the first one is going to be separated, which it is. Oh, no, there you go. Let's show it. There we go. Well, it's not separated properly, so I need to kind of separate it. There we go. That's close enough. Going to the color. Which color? Well, I can actually push the red, which it makes it more reddish. And I can take away the green. Let's see what that will look like. Okay, so that's kind of a weird color. And if I look at it, it looks silly because it's only by itself. So I need to make sure that everybody else has the same color. And you notice that I did not have the color change. It actually still follows the grading, follows the lightness and the darkness. So with that, let me go and try to get it with maybe 5 more quick ones. So this color is adjusting that node. So anything else that I select on that node should be responding. Let's say another circle, put that circle down, and also you see how it responds. Put that. So now the second oranges, add another node, add maybe 2 more. I don't know, 3 maybe. And the reason why all 3 are the same color is because the same node, the adjustment on the node is the same color. So with that, why don't I finish it nice? Bring it down, so there we go, and push it down here. Now, if I have problems with a shape that is not a circular shape, I have a tool. I have the curve, there we go, so I'm going to draw a shape around here. And hello, no, I didn't do it right, there we go. And go around it and finish the circle. So now that section is there. This is how it looks. Obviously, it's silly, but you notice that I am selecting multiple circular shapes to give you the lockdown. You could actually use this whole thing on your own and say, hey, this is all silly. Reset it. I'm going to go with the pencil. If you use the Wacom tablet, W-A-C-O-M, Wacom tablet, if you're a graphic person, you can say, hey, let's do the curve, and I'm going to draw it around it. Clearly, my skill set is not that good that I can show it very fast. There we go. And that's that. If I want to have that whole section yellowed, it's yellowed, or I want to have it more green, which is silly. So I can actually pick the colors, or, and this was the last one I'm going to show you. Remember, we had a choice of selecting a hue versus saturation or hue versus hue. So if we pick a hue in that window, and I did pick that color, I'm going to say I'm going to have that hue change to a different color. And you see how the softness also kind of tries to come in. And that would be pretty much the one before. Command D without. This is shape-based frequency. With that, when you're done with this, guess what remains? Send it out. Deliver. And when you deliver, there's multiple ways of you could put it onto custom outputs. Here are the choices. H264, H265, H ProRes, you can send it to your friend. Ah, that's what I was telling you at the beginning of the class. I can send it back to Premiere Pro. Maybe Premiere people gave me the sequence. I'm correcting it, sending it back to it, round tripping. The same thing goes for Avid or Pro Tools or any other environment. So with that, I hope that I gave you not just a quick overview, but a practical quick. So you know how you start the project, you know how to move things around, you know how to do the faces very nice. If the closed caption is important for you, I haven't tested other languages. So don't quote me on that saying that, oh, other languages are perfect. I don't know. I tested only English. Also that audio that you have the noise phased out, that's a cool one. I think that's a one seriously to consider. With subtitles, we did separate color frequency clips, so basic color grading. Yeah, I think we are done. I hope this worked for you guys. Please consider us if you think that we are not just knowledgeable, but we are your type of a training facility. Come back to us. I wish you the best. Stay well, stay healthy. We are Future Media Concept, and I hope you had a good time and spread the word.